I think, and I think it also was reflecting in the other article that you wrote on Medium, which was Fear in Times of COVID, where you actually towards the end give out certain guidance in terms of what people could do, and one of that was cognitive diversity scores over higher abilities. And that is where multidisciplinary could fit in that sense. I remember having this conversation with Margaret Heffernan, and she's again somebody who's been 5-time CEO, and then she's been writing very bestseller books. In fact, a couple of her books. One was Willful Blindness, which became a Financial Times thing, and then very recently, a year back, she wrote a book called Uncharted, which was almost the time that COVID outbreak happened, and this book came out. And I remember talking to her where I said that one of the challenges that I feel is that because people do not spend time in going deeper into anything in terms of concept, so then the ability to then have disagreement and dissent and have a reasoned and nuanced argument around it is missing. So then my immediate, the reptilian brain fires up and I'm in a fight, flight, or I exercise my veto or my designation and try to cover up the whole thing. In which case a behavioral, somebody like you could design the meeting. Meeting itself has to be architectured in a certain way where people then have different kinds of who speaks and when, and, pauses and stuff. So that's where I think, some of your work could be very useful, architecturing meeting and conversations. I feel so.
No, absolutely. That you've hit the. See, the other point is also that, if you look at a bigger problem, say a complex societal problem, it is something where you will need, as you rightly said, very deep expertise in certain subjects, right? And the point is, we are each not experts of everything, nor will we ever be. So you will need to believe, an expert in a certain field. And there will be two experts on that same field who will differ. And it is useful to know the differences. I mean, I don't know of anybody except Daniel Kahneman who does what he calls adversarial collaboration, because I think it's one of the, it's phenomenal, right? That I will collaborate with somebody who thinks exactly the opposite of me. So I wish if we could go even some distance, not the route that he's taken, it would actually, create a far better world in terms of a lot of the polarization would by itself disappear. Because I think in every way, otherwise well-intentioned people, by taking very strong stances and even the way you frame what is your conviction, the way you frame it affects how the other person is going to sort of, react and take to it, right? And there's just so much, work which is really science-based, which is in this area of how do you change another, do you say something, if you say something, that person will have his back to the wall and become even more convinced and not come your way.
Backfire
so
effect.
If you really, what you're trying to do is to change, you need to do it very differently. I mean, you go back to Kurt Lewin and the others who've done it and shown time and again that this is what works and this is what doesn't work. But, if you look at any organization, ones which I've worked in, which I sit on the boards of today, you do exactly the opposite. Even in the dynamic that is happening there, you can see it, somebody saying that now, I can sort of see it, okay, now we have this ego trip and which will play out. So what's the quickest way to actually resolve this so that we can get into more meatier discussions than just ego? Because two people, you've heard their egos, now they will stay at this. And the conversation for the next 20 minutes will be just, how do you say, assuage the egos to get on. So it happens all the time, right? So it's at one level interesting and fascinating that, you see it play out in front of you, so to speak. Yeah. And at another, it's a little frustrating because that this, I'm also by nature impatient. We'll waste another 20 minutes before we can get on to a more constructive discussion of the problem.